Deborah Barnes Wilson was 8 on Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. She and her grandmother, Julia Barnes, joined the voting rights marchers, filing in at the back of the column but turned back because the elder, an asthmatic, grew short of breath. The girl's grandmother, who raised her, lived in George Washington Carver Homes, across the street from the Brown Chapel AIM Church, where marchers congregated before heading across the Edmund Pettus Bridge into what late civil rights icon John Lewis called a sea of blue, a phalanx of state troopers standing ready to brutalize the peaceful demonstrators. She remembers the screaming and smell of tear gas as people ran back to the church seeking safety from the police. Many in the housing project, including her grandmother, no stranger to caring for freedom fighters, opened their doors to provide refuge. Barnes Wilson didn't realize it at the time, but she recalls seeing a bloodied Lewis, who had suffered a fractured skull and other injuries, loaded into a vehicle outside the church. At the time, I didn't know what I was witnessing, but when I see old footage I have a flashback, she told CNN. I remember watching them bring that man out and put him in a station wagon because there was only one black ambulance and they were piling folks on top of each other to get to the hospital. It was actually a hearse, not a station wagon, and Sunday marks 56 years since the watershed civil rights moment. Barnes Wilson can be forgiven for faltering on the specifics, but she certainly remembers how Selma shaped her life and why the day is one of the most important in American history. So when Barnes Wilson saw a story about Auburn University seeking to identify the 600 or so marchers who bravely joined Lewis that day, while working to restore dignity to the acres where they were beaten and tear-gassed for demanding equality, she reached out to Associate History Professor Keith Ebert. I read an article stating that you and a colleague were trying to locate participants of Bloody Sunday, she wrote in her email. My maternal grandmothers and I participated in the march. I will never forget the sights and sounds of the horrible day. The story of Bloody Sunday has been told again and again. There are scads of recountings in textbooks and other tomes, oral histories, documentaries and even a big screen retelling packed with Hollywood stars. Despite these remembrances, there are gaps, namely when it comes to understanding where the melee unfolded and who exactly took part. Till they get to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, I don't think commuters realize they just passed through where one of the most important moments in the civil rights movement took place, Ebert said. About 6 years ago, Danielle Wilkins and Junshan Liu were doing work in Hale County for Auburn's off-campus build design program, Rural Studio. As they made the 3-hour drive back and forth to Auburn, they'd pass through Selma.